Engineering students, here is your tutorial on geometric constraints. So what I want you guys to do is when you decide to start working on your geometric constraints, I want you to go to today's date in the calendar. On the 18th, there is an assignment called geometric constraints. I want you to go ahead and click on that. And under details, there is a little link here called geometric constraints. I want you to click that document, and it's going to bring you to a shared IDW. You want to go ahead and download that IDW. And you can go ahead and download that to your Google Drive folder like I have here. Once that is downloaded, you want to open up Inventor. You want to select Open. And you want to navigate to your Google Drive folder where you shared or where you saved that. And you're just going to go ahead and select Open. Now, I'm going to go through and run through this with you, and you can watch the video, pause, do that as you're working on it. The goal of this is to understand that dimensional constraints, saying that a line is 3 inches or 2 points are 5 inches from each other, or the angle between two lines is 45 degrees. Those are all dimensional constraints. They give us dimensions or numbers. What we want to do is we want to learn about how can we create relationships between lines using some basic geometry. And that's where we get the word geometric or geometric constraints. So as this opens, think about what are some of those geometric concepts that you've learned about in geometry. Things like parallel or perpendicular. And this is going to ask you to kind of go through that, and you're going to get the idea of how to use dimensions and constraints together. So here we go. This is just a standard IDW sheet, and we're going to go into this sketch. So this is part of sheet 1. We're going to go over to the sketch, we're going to right click, and we're going to go ahead and edit this sketch. Now, with all of these different problems, it's going to ask us to do things with them. And you can see the relationship and kind of how they change. And I'll kind of go through each one fairly quickly, but give you what this means for each constraint. So the first one asks us to make these two lines perpendicular. So right now these lines are not perpendicular because they have a 170-degree angle to them. Dimensionally, we could constrain that to say 90 degrees. Now that's perpendicular. But there is a geometric constraint that will allow us to do that with 2 clicks instead of with a dimension where it's 1, 2, 3, and then you have to type in the 90. That's about 4 movements, where a perpendicular constraint up here will allow us just to click 2 lines. So as you're working through each of these 12, if you can't find which one it's talking about, if you just hover your cursor over it, it'll come up with the name. So I know that the one that looks like 2 lines perpendicular is going to be perpendicular. So I'm going to select that one. And I'm just going to select these lines. Now, it does matter which one you select first. So I'll kind of go through and show you each. If I select this one first, then click this line, you can see it's going to make this line perpendicular to this line. So it changes the first one that you select. If I go about it the other way, select this line to this line, you can see it makes this line perpendicular to this one. So this one stays the same because it was the second one selected. In the end, it doesn't matter which one you select first. I like to do this one just for the fact that it doesn't intersect with the numbers down here. Now, I can take this line, and this line can actually move. You can see here I can change the size, I can even change the side of the line that's on, but it'll always be perpendicular. Alright, next one. It says make all 3 lines parallel to one another. So I'm going to go ahead and find the parallel constraint, which is the second one down in the first column. I'll select parallel, and again it's kind of the same way. The first line you select is going to change. Second line is going to change too. So you can see here this one changed to parallel to that one. Again, I'll select this one, parallel to that one. Now you can see it even totally switched sides and jumped over here. That's okay. Again, no matter where I move this, I can move this line. These lines will always be perpendicular to each other. Just like that. Alright, let's go to the next one. This one can get a little bit confusing for some people. but we just can read this out. So for example, it's going to say dim number 3 to some symbol 2 inches. Okay, so let's just break down this. Dim is just shortened for dimension. So it's going to say dimension number 3, which means circle number 3. Right now they're labeled with a little text box. Don't do anything with the little point here next to the text. That doesn't do anything for us. But this is saying that this is number 3. So it wants us to dimension it to something 2 inches. And this symbol right here means diameter. So I want to select my dimension tool, and I'm just going to click the circle, and it automatically dimensions to the diameter. Then it comes up with the edit dimension. So it wants this to be 2 inches. So I'm going to select 2 inches. Then it says we want to fix the circles 1 and 2. Well, fix is this little lock button, and it's not the traditional meaning of fixed. What it means is to fix it into place or to lock it into place. You can do that with points, you can do that with endpoints of lines, you can do that with whole objects. So I'm going to select fix, and I'm going to select circle 1 and circle 2. Now these can't move. What if I fix the center of a circle? So say I fix the center of this circle. If I do that, the size of this circle can still change, but I can't move it around. Where the other one, if I fix the actual circle itself, I can't change the size of it, but I can, and I can't, so also I can't move it around here. So it fixes the entire thing in place. If you just fix the center point, you can still change the size. So I want to fix both of those. So now both of those are fixed. This one's 3. And then it wants me to make number 3 tangent to 1 and 2. So what tangent does is it can do a few different things. It can place a line right up to some kind of circular feature where it doesn't intersect, but they just touch. Another thing it can do is it can create nice straight lines that curve into rounds or fillets. We talked about that in the Audible Blocks body. So I'm just going to go ahead and tangent this one to 1, this one to 2, and you can see here it kind of looks like a little upside down Mickey Mouse. And if I want to get out the tangent command, I can right click OK. This one, make the circle tangent to both lines. So remember, we want to make the circle tangent to both lines. We don't want to make the lines tangent to the circle. So again, we're going to select tangent, and since we want to make the circle tangent to the lines, you want to click the circle first, then select the line, circle first, select the line. So now our circle is tangent here and tangent here. I'm going to right click OK. So now that I've done the first 4 for you, what I want you to do, or what I want to kind of go through right now, is what if you screw up on a constraint? You know, how do you undo that? Well, you can Control Z if you undo that, but what if we made a mistake way back here? And we don't want to undo everything that we've worked on. We just want to fix, say, maybe this constraint right here. Well, to do this, on the keyboard, there is a function key called 8. It's on your top row of your keyboard. It's called F8. And if you select that, what happens is all constraints that deal with your object show up. So in this case, there is the little perpendicular symbol right there. And what I can do is I can go to this symbol, and I can actually right-click, and I can actually delete the constraint. So now these two lines no longer have that constraint applied to them. If you turn on constraints and you want to get rid of them, F9. So you can practice with that a little bit right now. F8, F9. All right, let's go to this one. Okay, so this one says fix point C, then make endpoints A and B coincident with point C. So again, ignore the letters. It wants us to fix point C. In this case, the center point of this circle it actually wants us to fix. So we're going to select fix, select the center point. Remember what that does is that we can't move this around, but we can change the size of the circle. Then it says make the endpoints A and B coincident with point C. So coincident, what it will allow us to do is it can either put two endpoints together, or it can constrain a line to always go through a point. So I'm going to show you both. So I'll select coincident. Here's this point. Here's this point. So now, if I right click OK, these 2 points are always together. So if I grab the end of this point, you can see I can move it around, I can change what size it is, but the constraint of those points together will never move. If I did a line through a point, for example, and hit OK, now this line can move through this point. It can be way over here and not even connected, but still the vector of this line will always go through that point. So that kind of tells you the difference of it. But in this case, we want to fix those endpoints to it. So I'm going to fix A to C. After that happens, just go ahead and move it around. All right, next one, makes circles concentric. Concentric just pretty much means that they all share the same center point. So I'm going to select concentric, and I'm going to make everything concentric to this large circle. So I'm going to select the small circle first, then the large circle, the medium circle, then the large circle. So you can see it kind of looks like a bullseye, and it gives me the concentric points. Make these two lines collinear. Well, collinear means just two lines are lined up again in the same vector. That could be horizontal, could be vertical, or it can be at these angles. So I'm going to select this line, then this line, and it looks like it combines them, but what I want you to do is I want you to grab one of these lines and kind of move it away. So you can see they are two separate lines. There is a gap between them. No matter where they are, they'll always be lined up with each other. Next one, make these lines horizontal. This one's pretty simple. We're just going to take these lines, we're going to put them horizontal left and right. Here's the horizontal button. I'm going to select it, make this line horizontal, this line horizontal. Do be careful with this because a lot of people struggle. They'll actually select the middle of the line, and that's making a point on that line horizontal, which we don't want. We want the entire line to be horizontal. So that is our second row there, and we'll go to our third row. We'll go to our third row here, where we're going to make all of our lines vertical. So we're going to select our vertical constraint, and again, you're just going to go ahead and select each line. Make sure you're not selecting those center points, and you're going to make those vertical in this case. Over here, we have make an equilateral triangle. Well, the definition of an equilateral triangle is that all sides are equal to each other in length. So to do that, we're going to use the equal constraint, and we're just going to select each side, and you can see here it makes it equilateral. Make these circles the same size. Well, again, it's kind of the same as the triangle here. To make these the same size, we're just going to use the equal constraint. So if we select those two, they are now the same size. So if I go ahead and put a dimension on these, say I change this to 1, you can see that they both change to 1. And then our last one here, it says make the center of the circles on the same horizontal plane. Again, kind of similar to this where you can make lines horizontal. In this case, we can now use points, and you can make points to points horizontal to each other. So if I select horizontal, I want to change this point to be lined up with the left one. You can see it brings it down. Those two are in line, and I want to make this last one horizontal to here. So here is your basic tutorial to kind of mess around with dimensions. I want you to go ahead and mess around with them. Do the same things I did. It only took me roughly 15 minutes. When you are done with this, what you want to do is turn on all your constraints. Remember that's F8, and then get this checked off by your teacher.